This week on HomeKit News, the valve controller T1 and the smoke detector from Aqara. Welcome back everybody. Today we're looking at the Aqara valve controller T1, and although the box doesn't have the Apple Home logo on it, it is HomeKit compatible via an Aqara hub. Now this is not the only product I'm testing today, and I also have the Aqara smoke detector, although to be clear, as you can probably guess, this is the Chinese model I've had here for quite a while, although it should be mostly the same as the one released in parts of Europe. So I'll be giving both of these the once over. For the valve controller, there's not a lot when it comes to features other than the fact it's supposed to be really easy to install, you get notified of any issues, and it uses AA batteries for power. So what's in the box? You get the main valve controller itself, of course, a manual in multiple languages, although I have to admit the manual is not much use, 3 types of brackets to connect the controller to your pipes, as well as a combined screw and hex driver. Also included are 4 AA batteries. Let's have a closer look at the controller itself now, and on the back is the lever that turns your water or gas valve to the on or off position, which is locked into place. On the front are a couple of buttons, one for controlling the valve and another for resetting it, as well as a couple of LEDs. There's also a manual button to release the valve lever if required. Other than that, the batteries go in the top section via this removable cover, all very simple and straightforward. The valve controller comes with 3 installation options, with the first using standard pipe brackets that wrap around your pipe. These keep the controller in place so the lever has enough purchase when turning the valve lever on your pipes. If you don't have enough clearance between your pipe and the wall, you can opt for this second option, which uses a pair of brackets that sit against the outer facing section of your pipe, along with a metal coil that will tighten around the pipe itself. The third and final option is for when you have what is called a butterfly valve, although instructions on how to fit this don't seem to be available. I've installed my controller on a pipe here, but it controls our gas supply, not water, as that valve is on the roof. Due to this, I'm not in a position to test it in situ, but for the purposes of this video, you can see how it would be fitted in most cases. Due to the position of the valve, the controller is upside down, but it doesn't really matter. Installation is via the Aqara app, and you will need a suitable Aqara hub, of course. Soon after I installed the batteries, the controller showed up in the app due to Aqara's magic pair feature. Once I started the process and chose a hub, it wasn't long before it was all set up and ready to go. You'll get asked to associate any relevant sensors with the controller, although you can do that later if you want. In Apple Home, it initially showed up in the same room as the hub it's connected to, and it will show up as a toggle switch like a light. Like smart plugs, you can choose between fan, light or switch, but of course switch is the obvious choice in this case. Let's now make sure it works as intended in Apple Home. So you can see there's a single tile for the controller, and as expected, tapping on the tile opens and closes the valve, although there are a few seconds of delay between turning it on or off and the valve getting to work. I'm not sure why, but it's nothing to do with signal strength. Next, I'm going to test it with one of my water leak sensors. First of all, though, I have to associate one of those leak sensors with the valve controller in the Aqara app, and it's ready to go. You can also set up a simple automation directly in Apple Home too if you don't want to use the Aqara app. So here's my leak sensor, and I'll place it in the dish, and I just add a small amount of water to get it triggered. Within a few seconds, the valve controller does what it's meant to, which would of course be to turn off the water supply if a leak is detected. As previously alluded to, you can also control the state of the valve directly in Apple Home with almost any device. So in this case, I'm going to set up a simple automation with the Wemo Stage wireless button. A double press of the first button will turn the valve to the off position, and you can set up a separate automation to do the opposite, of course. So here's the Wemo Stage, and I'll just double press the first button, and as before, the valve performs its task as expected, although not without the obligatory delay. Onto the smoke detector now, which is also a siren. This is the Chinese model I've got here that came out a while ago, and it does also look similar to Aqara's natural gas sensor, albeit a bit larger. Features of the smoke detector are as follows. So there's an 85 dB siren built in, you can access the state of the alarm remotely, and it can also work in tandem with additional Aqara smoke alarms as well as trigger a siren within a suitable Aqara hub. Like myself, many have been using an old Xiaomi Honeywell smoke detector in the Aqara app, although as this model was only ever meant for the Chinese market, it's better to use the new one that's certified for use in Europe. So for the second time today, what's in the box? There's the sensor and siren itself, a mounting plate, an adhesive double-sided sticker, or if you prefer, a set of screws and roll plugs for securing it to the ceiling. There's also an included lithium battery that's designed to last for 10 years. Let's have a closer look at the smoke detector now, and there's not a lot to see, to be honest. From the side it does look like a 1950s UFO, and there's a solitary button to pair it or to stop the siren once it's triggered. The back plate comes with screw holes and just rotates so that you can remove it. As you can see, there's also a slot for the CR17450 lithium battery, which, as previously mentioned, should last you at least 10 years. As with pretty much all Aqara devices, I should set this up in the Aqara app to begin with. I'll insert the battery to begin, and as this sensor is an older model, Magic Pair doesn't exist, although it may well do for the European version. As standard, I choose the sensor from the list of accessories, and once I've selected the smoke detector, I simply follow the on-screen instructions. That's now added and it's essentially armed and ready. The smoke detector is now set up in the living room, but as it's a sensor, it won't have a tile as such, but show as a listing at the top end of the screen. Scrolling to the end, it's listed under alarm sensors, of which there are two. The smoke sensor is listed here, alongside my Qingping air monitor light, which shows a CO2 sensor as listed. Let's now do a quick test, and I've set mine up underneath the cove lighting between the kitchen and the living room. In this case, I've got some smoking cardboard to trigger the sensor, and it only takes a few seconds to trigger the ear-piercing siren, which bleeps 3 times in a row in intervals, with the reset button flashing in red. I also get a notification on my phone from the Home app, and I can also get one from the Aqara app too if I set it up. Finally, to the pros and cons, and these devices are perfect counterpoints to other devices you might have in your home. The valve will work great with your water leak sensors, whilst amongst other things you can trigger your air purifiers when the smoke detector is triggered by burnt food, for example. These are Zigbee 3 devices, which I'm more than happy with, but you will need an Aqara hub, of course. That's not a problem for me. The siren is easily loud enough to get your attention, so full marks there. And whilst I didn't test the valve controller with my gas pipe, I can attest to its torque, although you should also make sure your cutoff valve is reasonably loose for the valve controller to work efficiently. Now, they aren't Matter devices, but if you use Matter integration with your Aqara hub, these will be exposed to Matter too, which is fine. The design of both is such that it should be foolproof for anyone to be able to use these, so that's an important aspect of security and safety. The last point isn't a negative as such, but more of a caution, in that as the smoke detector is only designed for Europe, it would be unwise to use it elsewhere, as it could invalidate any insurance claim should the worst happen. Other than that, these are welcome additions to any smart home to make you feel more secure. I know this video is a bit brief, but if you have any questions or comments, just drop a line below and I'll reply if need be. If you like this video, it would be great if you gave it a like. Please share, and better still, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Until the next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.